In this video, I just wanted to write the program that we discussed in the previous video. Um, Instead of actually building the circuit on an Arduino board, I thought it would be easier to just show you by building this on, on TinkerCad. So in TinkerCad, here I have put an Arduino, and what I've done is I have connected to pin 13 a LED through a resistor, and the other side of the LED goes to ground. So basically, if I output at pin 13 a 1, this LED should glow. And if I output a 0 here, this LED should not glow. So I want to make a program that's going to switch on the LED and then switch off the LED. But this is pin 13. What is pin 13 with reference to Atmega 328? So if you remember, we had looked at that. We had looked at this slide before. Now, if you look at digital pin 13 here, this is digital pin 13, the Arduino function. And this corresponds to a pin on Atmega 328 called PB5, which is the fifth bit of port B. Okay, so let's go back to TinkerCAD. So we are here on TinkerCAD, and what we are going to do is I'm going to go to the code, and I have actually already written the code there so that you can just take a look. So that's my code. I'm just going to minimize this a bit so that you can see the Arduino and the code together. Don't worry about these parts of the code, okay? So these part of the code are just come because they're just required, and don't worry about it. You can just take this template and put whatever you need to in that code. So the first thing that I have done is I've taken this data direction register B and set 5, pin 5, okay, the bit 5 as a 1, which is an output, right? So this is 0, that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the fifth bit. So I have set it to 1. So PB5, which is pin 13 here, has now been set to an output. And then in a while loop, what I do is I make port B, right? I make the fifth bit of port B 1. So I turn on the LED first, and then I wait for a second, and then I turn it off by putting 0 at that position there. And this while loop just keeps running over and over again till infinity. And again, don't worry about these two lines. They just have to go into each program. Okay, so let's start the simulation and see whether my LED glows or not. So I'm going to start it, and you can see that the LED glows for a second, switches off, switches on, switches off, switches on, switches off, and therefore my program is working. What I could, so let me stop the simulation and let me just reduce the delay. And I'll just reduce the delay in one of them. So I'm going to make the LED will turn on for 100 milliseconds and turn off for a second. And let's see whether the glowing of the LED changes. Okay, so let me start the simulation again. And can you see that? It's a very small on and then off. On, off, on, off. It's off for longer than it is on. And therefore, this program works. What I would ask you to do now is to do some modifications to this code just to see whether you have understood it. And there are some exercises after this video that you can watch to see whether you can do that.